Welcome to Insights into a Soul, the podcast that no one asked for. This is a podcast about life, love, and everything in between. So grab a cup of coffee and relax, and join me as we gain insights into a soul. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Insights into a Soul. Got a new guest tonight. We've got Josh with us.
What's up, everyone?
Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for... this is a very impromptu situation.
It was.
Josh is hanging out tonight. He's one of Rachel's friends, and my friend too. But he knew Rachel through, I guess you guys, knew through work?
Work together,
and,
of course.
Now you guys have been hanging out, so he came over tonight and started talking about your story.
Of course.
And as you know on this podcast, we're all about story. Relationships, story, and life. And I was in the other room playing video games and heard a little bit about your story. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I got to go in here and sit down and talk because it's...
Interesting.
Your relationship that you got out of, it's back in November. So you got out of a 6-year on and off relationship. Mm-hmm. It was just a very interesting story. And we don't need to go into a ton of detail, but just give us kind of the quick overview of your... How you got to here.
Of course. So, like I said, I think the main point of it really was I think that we were young and dumb. You know, I think that's really where it starts for me. We didn't really know where we were, and I don't know. There was a lot of lying and different things involved in the situation. And to whatever, what obviously doesn't know, I'm originally not from the Charlotte area. So when I had moved here, I relied heavily on my relationship. That was my friend, and I just heavily relied on that. And then everyone that she was around became my friends, which also became a toxic thing. So yeah, I think it was just kind of a back and forth lying thing from here to there, and just young and dumb type deal. But as we got older, after the ups and downs and the offs and ons, we eventually kind of made it through. Within the last year and a half, we were very serious, but the lies still were there. And
because you were telling your story before this.
Yeah.
And there's, I think sometime we'll get into the depth of it because you have a very interesting story.
I do, and I did want you to guide me because I don't want to say too much until leave.
Okay, so let's just kind of hit on some of the highlights that led to here.
Sure. Because
what piqued my interest is, obviously the complexity of your story, your relationship, because you said 6 years on and off, and there was a lot of I guess as you would put it, like pathological liar.
Correct.
You'd define
very
your
much
ex as this. So I think that's kind of what started our conversation, which was like, let's just record this because we're about to get into something interesting. But you have, your story is one that has lies, that has deception.
Correct.
That you really thought that the person was one way, but you're finding out they weren't that way at all.
Correct.
Like you, and from what I hear too, you seem like you were a very trusting person.
Correct, very much. I think, even kind of throw back to kind of start off a little bit, we also worked together. We were in a relationship together. We had the same friends, and that's kind of really where it started. I don't really exactly remember, what caused different things. That's the young age in all of us. But it really started back working together. This one particular incident, we had, broken up for whatever reason, and she had went around lying to all of the staff members and family members of my own, saying that she was pregnant by me, and telling different people that I was not even interested, and all these kinds of sorts of things. I even had reached out to her and had offered to pay for this abortion, so-called, that she was, going to go get. And it goes, further into detail, but I had even tracked down to where she was even going to the abortion clinic to see if I could even make a fake appointment. It had really gone into a deep thing. And it was crazy that at the same time we were so addicted to each other, which is so weird.
So how long had you known each other before you started in a relationship?
Months.
Okay.
Months at all. We were both 16, so you know how that goes at 16 really years old. Yeah. 16 to 23. So, that's So quite a growth has happened.
So 16, you guys met, you were working together.
Correct.
And one thing led to another.
One thing led to
You're
another.
Interested in each other.
Correct.
And you started dating. So now, how old were you at the point which she started this whole pregnancy
thing? Right. I was probably 17.
Okay, so
yeah, I was very young.
Early on in your relationship.
This was probably every bit a year, less than a year in our relationship. And right after that, it went to an abusive thing that I had abused her in the workplace. The police was involved in all these sorts of different things, and the manager of the store and the police had, questioned her and me, brought us in together to, pull this up on tape. And when she was questioned to bring it up on tape, she ended up walking out of the office. I mean, in the midst of the police officer and everybody, she ended up getting up and walking out when they had asked her the time and, when this occurred so they could pull it up on camera. She walked away from the situation.
So, okay, so we've got the pregnancy. And even to the point of, scheduling.
Correct. Oh, yeah. It was, she was so far.
She was committed to these,
that's the thing, I want to go detailed, but I guess I need to because that's really she was. She was such pathological liar, but it was so crazy because I literally compared it to a Lifetime movie. It was really insane. It really was. No, she really was the person, and she did. That she had it planned out to the place and when and the time of where she was going to have this abortion. And I kept questioning it. And it had even offered to pay for it, all these different things. Well, then she went to blocking my phone and all these types of different things, but ended up calling around to local abortion clinics to see if I could schedule an appointment. And in the midst of trying to schedule an appointment, all of the appointments were at least 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
So I knew right then and there that was a lie.
Yeah.
And then too, I already knew that she wasn't pregnant. I just knew.
So let me ask this: how much do you know about her past? Do you? Cause I'm curious. When you encounter people like this,
correct?
It's not something that just happens in a person. This is obviously. Especially with liars, it's a pattern.
It's a pattern.
And so, I'm wondering, her family, what was her family like?
So I think that was the hardest part of me being so young that I didn't know. I didn't know how to...
didn't think about
I didn't think about those things. I had no idea how to even, accept those things. So, as time went on, off and on, Jesus Christ, gosh, there were so many different things. Even after the pregnancy thing went to the abuse thing, because I had hit her in the workplace, obviously a total lie.
And is this still in the first year?
This is still in the first year of relationship. And why would I still want to be with that? Only God knows. Only God knows.
But you're young.
So, young. Okay, so obviously you want to keep it going, whatever.
But you obviously had feelings for her.
I definitely have feelings, and still to this day, very much care and obviously wish the best for her. I'm obviously not in love with her any further. But as time had went on, with me not from this area, the people around me and her friends obviously knew these things. Do you think I was told these things? Of course not. Yeah. So I'm learning these things on the very hard way.
Yeah. Not even getting firsthand, you're getting this stuff.
I literally get it thrown right at me. So obviously, over the next 2 years, or the first 2 years, I'm learning who she is.
You moved up here. Mm-hmm. So how long had she been here?
So she was originally from Charlotte.
Okay, so this is her home.
Correct,
so
this is her home.
Had roots here.
Correct.
So that's why the people were so close to her.
You got it. So we all started working at this restaurant together, and the people that were working there obviously knew her. They all were in the same area, went to school together. I wasn't from here, so I moved here when I was 16-ish, 17-ish. So... I was fresh to it all. I didn't even know those people she called her friends. I didn't really know her.
Place, completely new place.
Yes.
How far away from home was this for you?
About an hour and a half.
Okay, so not terribly far, but still far enough that
you made a huge difference.
It's not the same place.
Correct. It's definitely not the same place. Charlotte's obviously a way bigger city from where I'm from. So.
Yeah. Where are you from originally?
Lancaster, South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. Right down the road.
But yes, definitely. For those of you that don't know, Lancaster is very small compared to Charlotte. Charlotte, correct. Big city, international hub. Lancaster is it's a town.
It really is. Very small town. Very small town.
There's really not a whole
different culture.
You can drive through Lancaster and
be done.
Yeah. Exactly there's a couple restaurants, the interchange, and you're done. And a couple car dealerships.
Yeah. Not even real car dealerships.
Yeah.
So that's really it. So I don't. Honestly, like I was telling Rachel earlier, life just passes by so fast, and I feel like I've forgotten, or a space of my memory was taken out, that things have just passed by so fast. But from all those different crazy things, so from the pregnancy to this abusive workplace, whatever, don't really remember these all exact reasons, but I remember a time after that she even done donuts in her car in my mom's front yard after we had broken up or whatever. Don't really remember, why, of what reason after that. Anyways, long story short, after that, we ended up, somehow at 18 years old, I ended up getting my own place. And we ended up partially moving in together for quite some time, but my family was not accepting of her whatsoever, obviously, from the things that she had put me through. So,
because they were like by your side while you're going through all
of course, definitely. Yeah, my family and I are very, very close. So
So what were they saying during this time?
To stay far away as possible. That was, my mom was not happy whatsoever. My mom and her mother even had exchanged words. Like, it wasn't, we definitely put everyone that was around us, we put everyone through hell,
Now, were you close at all with her family? Did you get close at all?
I became very close with her family, and still to this day very close with her family. Yeah, very close.
So what's her family like? Like,
normal people.
So they're like, there's no patterns of like this with her.
What's
family.
crazy? So as I would say, within the last 2 years, I've really gotten close to her family. But her dad, who I was still close with, we hung out a lot, and he shared a lot of information as well, but he seems... of course, I didn't share deep, in-depth details with him, but he definitely knew the gist of everything, and he definitely knows what type of person she is, his daughter. And he seems to say that the mom is the same way, his wife, in certain sort of sense, So, I don't think he's as shocked as I would have imagined, but he knows. Her dad definitely knows.
It's even interesting that they're still together,
which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
And inside of that becomes a different financial situation of probably why they're together. Yeah, it's insane. So we ended up moving in together at 18, 19 years old, whatever. That didn't last too long at all for whatever reasons it may have been. I went through a crazy stage, but during that, not really a crazy stage, but I went through a stage of, mental health issues from my own, moving so far away, I didn't know any of these people up here, and I felt betrayed by a lot of these people after this relationship, just for many different reasons, whatever. But we took about a year break, year and a half break, and during that time, she decided to marry someone for money, and that was a whole different scenario. Long story short, after that year break or whatever, we had gotten back together, about a year or so later, I finally found out, and I'm really not even sure how I found out, that she was married to someone else. I didn't even know, but I had found out some sort of way that she was married, and I confronted her about it, and she lied about it.
Now, okay, but this marriage, though, you said earlier, when we were talking before, this marriage wasn't just like a normal marriage. Like, it wasn't like... So, go ahead and just briefly, like, what was this type of marriage? Because it's very interesting.
Yes, so she married an illegal immigrant, so therefore this person could get his citizenship here in the United States. So she married him for money, and if anybody knows a little about that, you definitely can't play that too hard. You definitely have to live out the marriage, and you have to play the game as long as you can. So... but I didn't know that she was married at the time, whatever, found out, and obviously I wasn't clearly happy about it, but for some reason I still wanted to be with her. Only God knows why, but in the midst of all of this, she was just a manipulating, pathological liar. It could be about anything, you guys. She could be driving home from work and, a squirrel ran out in front of her, right? She would make out that this dog ran out in front of her. She had to swerve off the side of the road. That was just the type of person she is. She could speak 2 words and I could tell if it was a lie or not. I had just become to learn her that well. But as I told you earlier, that was just something I accepted. I knew what type of person she was. My mom was not fond of her whatsoever. Definitely not. So that was very, very interesting.
So you separated for the year,
correct?
And then you got back together.
Got back together.
What? Not the why.
Why, but how?
I don't think we'll figure out the why necessarily.
Right.
But so how did you end up back together?
Honestly, I I really couldn't tell you. I think what it all kind of goes back to is that I'm not from here. I didn't know many people, and I feel like I ran back to my comfort zone, and I think that's really what it was. And still to this day, that's one thing that this definitely is the tiebreaker for us. You know, we've been broken up since November 2019, so it's definitely been the tiebreaker for us. I finally have adulted and, you know, really understood who she is and who I am, so I've, you know, wanted to move forward.
Still, we're looking at 6 years.
6 years.
6 years. And I think, so something you said in there is key, because I think this is very relatable, that even if you're not in a relationship where it's like a lifetime story. Like,
correct.
Like, honestly, like, if I didn't know you, like, I would say, I couldn't even say this story is made up.
Right.
Because you would have to be like one of the most amazing writers ever to craft something this like.
And this is why, yet again, I tell the people that I do tell this situation to, or this story, that's why I say it's a lifetime movie.
It is. It really is.
It really is.
Yeah.
And like, obviously, there is tons and tons and tons of little bits and details that I'm missing that you guys have no idea. But, you know, I think the craziest part of this whole, you know, quote unquote crazy, you know, relationship is that the fact that I went back. That's the craziest part of it.
So that's the thing. It's crazy, but at the same time, it's not crazy. So that's the point I was getting to, is like, this is the part that I think is relatable to so many people, is that when you're in a relationship and you genuinely care about someone, we get into this mode where we very easily overlook those flaws. Even as big as they are. Little flaws, obviously, we overlook them all the time.
All the time. We don't even recognize them sometimes.
And, I mean, somebody snores, you get over it. If they don't put the toilet seat down, you get over it.
Correct.
It's things like that you learn to live with compromises.
You're right.
Which is just part of relationships.
Right.
But then you have these where it's like...
lying continuously.
Lying, deception.
I mean, it's so bad that, I mean, literally come home, you know, after work, and we're sitting on the couch talking. In my mind, I'm thinking, that's a lie.
Yeah.
What, that story's a lie.
You know the person so well.
I know the person so well.
Like, but you've gotten to the point where you just accept it.
You accept it. You move on. You just keep your day on.
I think that's something interesting, I think, especially in... I mean, let's be honest. If we look at it, it was an abusive relationship for you. I mean, you were emotionally abused, mentally abused.
I was.
But I think that's the thing, is people who are victims of abuse of any level, there's this part of us that, especially for those of us that have these caring sides of us, that go back to it.
Correct.
Because the comfort, like you said, the security.
Yeah, the security and the comfort.
The familiarity of it. It's very easy to go back to what you know.
So easy.
And there's that part of you, too, I think. And I know for me, like with my situation, like obviously it wasn't as extreme, but with my situation, like there's this part of me that wants the other person to change, that believes they can be a better person. Like, again, my ex is not a bad person by any means, but like, you know, I think for these relationships, like we hope and we long for change in that person, for that person to become better, because like I think to an extent you can see into a person and see that there is good in them. There's potential.
There's very much good.
You know, and I've talked to so many people I've talked to. That's the thing. I think that's what keeps them in relationships. Is
very much agree, and I agree with you as well. You know, as much as I've said, I do want to say that she also is a great person. You know, there were so many great things that I don't know if and hope that I can find in other people. You know, but. No, there was definitely great moments and great times, and like I said, even, you know, seeing through to hope to see the change. Yeah, definitely, I've had those talks with her, but you know, we both come defensive at, you know, both of our flaws. That's just, it's natural for people to react like that, but it was really hard to overlook. I mean, and just another thought that came off my head too. I don't remember the age at the time, but much younger, 17, 18, 19. I remember that she hacked all of my social media. Hacking mean, I don't know if she knew my password. I don't really remember. But she hacked all of my social media and deleted it, including my emails. Facebook, Twitter, email, and my Instagram. She actually deleted all of the accounts. This is how crazy. She done the Find My Friends on my iPhone. With me not ever knowing. And as I was telling you earlier, Rachel, I'm not the jealous type. I am not a jealous type person, so it doesn't really bother me. But the fact that you had to put something on me makes me aware that you're feeling guilty for some sort of reason. Not me. Because at the end of the day, I'm not aware of anybody around me or familiar with anything.
You went into that a little bit before. Is like, that I think, is that ultimately like what led to you finally ending it? Or what
what finally ended it was honestly the last year and a half to 2 years of our relationship was actually fairly well. So I thought from like October-ish of 2019, I can't explain, but for some reason just had a feeling of something different in the air. I couldn't tell you exactly what it was, and I just kind of knew that it was led towards her. I just knew that there was something going on, something was wrong, something was off. I could question about it all day long, but you know what? She'd lie about it, and I could read right through her lies, so that just led me open to more doors. So, long story short, one particular night I tried to go through her phone, which is not me, to be honest. That's not the type of person I am, because I'm not a jealous type. I really don't care at the end of the day. Which is obviously...
So to that, like, there was something in you that had...
I had a very weird feeling and vibe that something had changed. And when I say changed, I mean instantly changed from one day to the next. I literally felt change in the air. Our conversations have changed. There was just something there. I don't know what it was, but I'm a vibe person. I can read and I feel it. It
was similar for me. Like, I trusted my ex, but there were still times where I was just like... Towards the end, especially, I was like, I just had this feeling. Like, I was like, I don't know. Is she talking to somebody else? Yeah. And like, if you listen to some of my other episodes, you'll find it that like that was a factor in this whole thing. Like, she was. So my feelings weren't wrong. But like, you get to that point where like, I don't know. We just sense these things.
You sense it. Even...
And you hope, like, I know for me, I hope that wasn't right.
true.
Like, I was like, man, I am overthinking this.
Yeah.
And
definitely, most definitely. I don't know, even going back, not to skip the subject, but even going back a little bit, I've had people around me, her friends, my friends, whoever, tell me different things that, oh, she's talking to this person, or she said this, to that. But what am I supposed to believe? I don't necessarily know these people. These are, quote unquote, her friends. I came up here, So it was a lot of going on, but eventually, towards the end, I felt there was something wrong. I tried to go through her phone one particular night, and the password was changed on her phone. Which obviously meant that something was going on. So in this, it was about a 3-week period, I kept attempting passwords on her phone when she was asleep, which is still to myself, I call crazy to myself, because
it's not a good way to live.
It's not a good way to live, because I lived on my toes. When the nighttime came, I'm like, okay, when is she gonna go to sleep? Because like I'm waiting till I get in there to see what's going on, which is not really, I say that's not me, but it really isn't me. But I just needed something to prove to myself that this was the end of our relationship.
There's something inside of you that was like,
I knew. I've had numerous people tell me different things over the years. I just needed confirmation to myself, I guess is what it was. So, ended up one night, I ended up getting on her phone, and she had the iPhone with the fingerprint on it still. And I actually hit the fingerprint to wake the phone up, and the phone went in, like it opened, realizing that my finger was still on there from prior use. So I didn't even think about it. So, get in the phone, and there's people in her text messages that are not under names, they're under emojis. So reading, and mind you, this was not just one person. So reading through these messages, definitely sexually talking, and then pictures were exchanged. Every different thing was a different conversation, but that's all I needed. I didn't need anything. Snapchat names were exchanged, and they're talking over Snapchat, and this and that, and like, that was it. I seen the proof I needed to see, and so the next day we both went to work, and we both came home about the same time. And as soon as I walked in the door, when I say it fell out of my mouth, I literally say it fell out of my mouth. When I opened up the door, I went through your phone, seen everything I needed to see. That was it. That was it. I was out that night. I didn't even stay that night. And came back the next. Well, it wasn't even the next day. It was that following weekend, and came back and got most of my belongings. I let her keep more so of the furniture things. I didn't have anywhere to put those, and I am a very extremely nice person and would not leave her without certain things. It's just not me.
Because you care about her.
Yeah, I do, and I still very much care about her. And I do love and care for her, but I'm not in love with her. I don't want to be with her.
I think that's an important thing to note, is that you can still care about someone.
Correct.
And you can still
love someone
and not be
with someone.
And that's kind of something that my ex and I talked about even through this breakup, is like, I still love her.
Right.
I still have feelings for her.
Right.
And, her with me as well. And, like, we always will. We'll always have feelings for each other, especially because we have kids together.
But...
it's one of those things where, like, you can love someone and not be with them.
Very much.
I mean, I think especially like with our personalities, when we try to find the best in someone, that's like our inclination is like, I love you even though you're an absolute mess. And I hope that you can find the help you need. Like, that's how it was with my ex. Like, I loved her, and my biggest thing was like, if nothing else, like, this relationship ended, I hope that, you know, I said this to him, like, I hope you find, you know, yourself.
Correct.
And you grow. And she has. Like, I've seen, you know, she's gone to therapy and stuff like that, and so she is a very different person than when we were together. Which is great. You know, she feels better about herself, which is super important. And, you know, to me, if it means her becoming a better person because she's not with me,
great. You're here for it.
Yeah, and there's a timer going off. For the brownies.
Brownies. Another thing I wanted to mention, too, is that... Oh, shoot, I just lost my train of thought. Jeez, what was I going to say? You know, I think one of the hardest things for me is, and you probably could say the same thing, I think was really hard for me, especially when I moved up here not knowing anybody, is that at the end of the day, my ex and I, we were best friends.
Yeah.
I could call on her and share my nerd side of me, my geek side of me, the sexy side of me. I could show all those different sides of me, and I felt like she accepted all those things. But then now it's like, now I'm taking a step back and I'm looking into a relationship. I'm like, okay, so were you accepting those sides of me to make me feel good because of the things that you were doing?
Yeah.
So I question things all the time, but it's still hard to this day. I mean, even to this very moment that I say that I'm very much over the relationship, don't want to be with, but it's still very hard to, you know, have news or see things that you want to share with your quote-unquote best friend. Like, I have very close friends, but there's not anyone that I can share my stuff with, and I don't find that with anybody else yet.
You know, I've discussed this on other podcasts about myself. Like, for me, I'm very fortunate because I had a lot of really close friends.
Right.
So when we separated, when everything went down, I had a very strong support network for myself. Like, friends that were there to mourn with me, that were just there to be present, friends that would come over. Like, the first weekend after everything went down, one of my best friends, Will, who's been on a podcast before and he's going to be on others, he was like, dude, we're going out this weekend. Like, we're going to dinner, we're going to your favorite restaurant.
Yeah.
And it was him, and then my friend Jen, Patrick, like Savannah, Rachel, like a few of my closest friends were all there.
Right.
And not to, like, talk about what happened or anything, just to be there. And I know, like, I would not be where I am today or in the shape I'm in today if I didn't have those close friends there.
Support.
Now, unfortunately, my ex didn't have a close network. She didn't have close friends. And she even kind of made comments about that, like, our friends were my friends.
Your friends.
They were friends that I made that she became friends with. And so she, I think, really didn't have anybody to talk to or deal with. And also then, she also moved 6 hours away.
Right.
So,
makes a huge difference.
She moved in with her parents, with our daughters. And so, yeah, she doesn't have anybody to deal with it. So she's got to deal with all of her shit
by herself.
In a situation with her parents. And,
6 hours away.
And the kids. And, like, so I'm not even there to be able to help. And that's one of the things I think that hurt me was I'm not there to help her. But at the same time, I've got to learn it's not my job anymore.
It's not your job anymore.
Like I've said before, like, my responsibility, I no longer have obligations or responsibilities to her other than to help take care of my kids.
Your kids.
And then to treat her with respect and
of
honor.
Course.
And that's it. Like,
of course.
You know, she's still, I consider her still one of my best friends, but I can't be, just like she can't be that for me, I can't be that for her.
Right.
You know, because early on, there were some emotional conversations that I had, and she, you know, her therapist and stuff, she was like, listen, I need to ask you, please don't have these emotional conversations. Like, we can talk about stuff, but I can't do the emotional conversations.
Side of it.
Because she's like, I can't be that for you anymore.
Yeah.
Which
that makes sense.
is understandable.
Understandable,
so
yeah.
I was like, you know what? No, you're right. I respect that. Because, yeah, you know, and that's, I think, something we need to remember is that when we get out of a relationship, especially, my relationship wasn't a bad relationship. Yours, I would say, was a I don't want to say bad.
Yeah, I just had a
troubled relationship.
A troubled relationship.
There were a lot of challenges. And the thing I think we have to remember when we get out of that is to be careful not to lean on that other person.
And that's the hardest part.
It's so hard.
Hard.
Because, again, it's somebody you know and you trust. Like you said, you shared every part of yourself with that person.
I literally to say the other half of me. And, like, that's what's crazy about it is that you've got to separate.
Yeah. And that's how it was for me. Like, she was my other half. Like, we literally did everything together. I trusted her with, again, every part of me. And so, we leave a part of ourselves with that person.
We do. We very much do. We very, very much do. How long
your relationship is, if you love someone and you care about them, you leave a part of yourself with them. And the best thing she said to me after we separated and everything is she goes, don't think of this as failing. Because I'm the type of person for the longest time, I would think of things as wins and fails. That's how I looked at life. I looked at life as, if you don't succeed, it's a fail. And failure was not an option for me in life. For the longest time. And so she's like, don't look at this relationship ending as a failure. It's a chapter.
It is.
And this chapter is just, it's over. It's over. It's time for a new chapter.
And it's hard to turn that page.
It is absolutely hard. And it's hard. And so, I don't know if I've talked about this on a podcast, but I need to in depth is, the hardest part about finishing a chapter is not going back and reading that chapter.
You're exactly right. And another thing I was going to lead into, you had said that, you guys are, still, great friends or whatever the case may be. I find that hard for, my particular situation or relationship is that, I feel that she's very weak and so am I towards it. And I feel like that I've had to cut connections with that. Only because I know where it leads right back to. And I think this is the hardest part. But it also has not been as hard as I had imagined it or prior. I think that this time has come naturally for us both in a way. But I think that's the hardest part is not even having communication whatsoever with her. But I have accepted that. But there is still definite times, at least once a day, I want to send, share, tell, call something with her. But I think what's best for me is that, or both of us, is that we cut connections, which is so hard. But another thing, too, is that you had asked if I was close to her family. I'm still very much close to her family. I still talk to her mother, her father. Like, they, live right down from the business that I own. So I see them quite often. But things are great. I can't, I would have imagined this situation being a lot worse than what it is. I think that she's matured. I've matured, has made the whole situation a lot better, obviously.
Now, November, so we're looking at, when in November?
Oh, God. Very early, November 1st-ish.
Okay, so like November, so we're looking at November, December, January,
February. So like 4 months.
You're not 4 months in. So, okay, I want to hit on a couple things. So you talked about how you cut off, like, completely. Because you knew that if you didn't, you would want to go back.
Go back.
The thing I think we don't think about is that, like, relationships, and especially love, like, it is a chemical.
Yeah.
It is a drug.
Very much.
And it affects you mentally, physically, everything. So it's like coming off of a hard drug. Like, you have to just quit. Like, you can't
You're
keep
right.
going back and getting
You're
hits on it
exactly right.
So for you, you've had to completely shut off, which I think part of it too is your age. I mean,
very much my age. I have no experience, and like this was my first love.
But the fact that you're able to say, okay, what in you made the decision? Like, what triggered, if you can think of, triggered the thought like, I need to cut this off completely?
I think a lot has to go within January of 2019. Ended up purchasing a business, and I think from the financial struggle and realization and adulthood that I had to mature so fast for what I signed my name on, and I didn't. There's a lot that goes hand in hand. I just think that I was put through so much at a very fast rate that I matured really, 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 really quickly. Although I've been very mature for the whole time, but I knew where my focus needed to be.
Yeah. Well, there's certain things like that like life events that
trigger
do cause us to
mature and like release, and realize and see those things. But I think at the end of the day, when I closed my eyes on it, I knew that this wasn't going to be something that was forever, and I knew that I needed to focus on my attention, where it needed to be more importantly, and that was with these things, and it was, honestly, I could say it was a little bit easier to move forward. Yeah. Not that it is a lot easier now because my mind is occupied on other things right now.
Yeah.
My mind is very much occupied.
That's an important thing, is that when we go through these tough times, whatever it is, if it's a relationship or anything, there's an importance in occupying your mind.
Right.
Because it's those times when you sit and you think too much, that's when the problems happen. So I think, that's a critical thing for anybody, like whatever's going on. Occupy your mind. Like, you got to be careful because you don't want to occupy yourself too much. Where you're obsessed and consumed by it, but at the same time, you don't want to give yourself too much space to just dwell on your thoughts and end up going back to your old patterns. But I think that's something that's interesting for you because you were 16 when the relationship started.
Correct.
So 6 years. Mm-hmm. You've changed a lot because, when you're 16, we're not always making the best decisions. It's just our brains are still developing.
It's natural.
Males at that age, it's just
things are all over the place. Yeah. Right.
And so I think it's just interesting to see that pattern or that path that you went through where your maturity kind of like accelerated deeply overnight. And pain and trauma does that. It does. Pain and trauma will cause you to
what's crazy is also, at the end of the day, and we've said this again, I'll always have, love and feelings for her. Yeah. But I do know that, or I think I know rather, I know that 10 years from now, if I was in some sort of situation and I was to call her to just come pick me up, even in California, wherever I know she'd be there. I know she'd be there. I feel like we'll always have some sort of connection, whatever the case may be. But I think we'll always be there for one another in some sort of instance.
I completely agree, and I think anybody that's been in a long-term relationship will say there's that part of them that always wants to be there for the other person.
Yeah.
But you realize that your life is. I hate to say it this way, but your life is better without them.
No, you're very much right. It sounds
bad to say that.
It does sound bad to say that. In the
context, like I know that, and I've even talked to my ex about this, that I'm a better person now because I'm not with her. Not because of her.
Because you're not in that situation.
Yeah, because when I was in that relationship, I was so focused on being what I thought she wanted. Being a different person or just like...
being there for her.
Yeah, and in not being there for myself.
Not being there for yourself. Exactly.
Also, we get so blinded by our love, by our relationship, that we don't see ourselves. We don't see certain things.
We don't.
And then we separate and...
you look back and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's like, oh, man. All right. Because I've even apologized to her. Like, I've been like, man, I was an asshole at some point.
And you know what? That's great you bring that up, too. Because I have as well, as you get older, mature, whatever the case may be. Or it's not even about... sometimes maturity. It's about just taking a step back and like looking into like what has happened. And I've been down that same path where I've had to go back and apologize for things. But I think that what's so different in certain people, and for instance, my situation is that I felt like I could admit my wrongs and like where I went wrong and things that I didn't do right, and I've tried to fix those things rather than I feel like her that she didn't. She didn't, and so to this day, she's not cleared up things that I know.
I think that's a personality thing because, like,
very much.
Very much. You're the type of person that, again, you seem like you constantly. I mean, you purchased a business, like you obviously have drive and determination. You like to success, like you like to move on and grow and learn. Whereas I think people with her personality, I don't know anything about her, but just based on what you've told me, people like that. They care about themselves.
Oh, it's all about themselves.
They will do whatever and say whatever to achieve a certain desired outcome.
Of course.
And they don't see anything wrong with it because they're just like, this is just who I am.
I think that's the worst part of it is that, I say or, categorize her as a pathological liar, but at the end of the day, I do agree that it's a pathological liar because she doesn't see it. She doesn't see it, or she doesn't see anything wrong with it, or
that's the hardest thing.
It's the hardest thing because it naturally, it really naturally comes out of her mouth to just say something extraordinary wrong.
It's so hard to like when you're in a situation, and it doesn't have to be a relationship, just a friendship,
anything,
and you see something, you're like, oh my gosh, like
what do you do?
How do you not see this? What the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah,
and you just want them. Like we can't ever change someone. Like we can't change. They will not change until they.
And that's not my job too. I want everybody to be you who you want to be. Maybe we just don't bond together. That's okay.
Yeah, and that's important too. I think is that like we need to understand that we can't change someone. That's not our place. Like as a friend, as someone that you trust, you can offer advice to them.
Right.
Like I've got one of my best friends. I can offer advice to him if I see something going on. Like, hey man, this is what I see right now.
Correct.
And we have a good enough relationship. Like he's even said that before. Like I've said certain things to him. We've known each other for like almost 9 years.
Right.
I've said certain things to him. He's like, anybody else that would say that to me, I would look at them and be like, mind your own effing business.
Right.
He's like, but you, because you've built this relationship and this trust, like, I know where you're coming from. And it's not coming from a place of, like, maliciousness or anything like that. It's just genuine. Like, hey,
friendship.
And he thinks long and hard on certain things that I say because we've built that friendship.
Right. And I think friendship is also very important. Like I had even mentioned, too, you know, I think the beginning of our relationship, you know, young and dumb, I think the worst part of our relationship is that we had her friends were my friends type deal. You know, I wasn't from this area. But out of all of this, I became really close with a mutual friend of ours at the time. Her name is Jennifer, but now me and her are very much like brother and sister. It's crazy how we are. It's insane. I can't say that we literally are the same person. I would say that we're definitely soulmates, but in a friendship way. It's insane how much we are synchronized. But I couldn't do life without her. But it's crazy. Like I really listen to what she has to say, you know, and especially from it coming from a female, it obviously is a lot different. And then it being a friend as well, you know, you have to take the heat.
So were you friends with her while you were with your ex?
Correct. Yep.
So I'm curious. What did she say during all this?
Oh, she was definitely against it.
Yeah.
After the situation started going down, Jennifer, she definitely was on my side, and not even on my side. It's not a side to choose. It's the what's right and what's wrong type deal.
Was she ever just like, what the hell? Like,
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And you didn't listen though.
No, I didn't listen, and I got put in the quote unquote dog cage because I didn't listen to her. You know, and but you know, what's funny about it is that now it's reversed. Now she's not listening to me, and now she's in a toxic relationship.
Oh no.
That's a whole other story, but. Friends are very important to me.
Absolutely.
I think that they, and friends and family both. I think that it's important to listen to everyone that's around you, you know. Take in consideration at least what everyone says. You don't have to listen to them all.
It's funny you say that because, like I said earlier, I wouldn't be where I am and I wouldn't have healed and progressed the way I have if it wasn't for my friends.
I also agree.
This is an interesting thing, and I need to get on this on another episode. I went to therapy after my breakup, and I went to a few sessions, and I ended up dropping this therapist because she, first of all, did things in my opinion, because I'm studying to be a psychologist.
Okay.
But she did things that I didn't agree with. I'm like, this is not like the way you treat someone that's like going through an experience like this. Like, like she got to the point where she said to me, she goes, I think you're going to be a great therapist someday. I was like, okay. And it was a backhanded compliment. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, you're very good at hiding things. And she's like, and you need to as a therapist. Like, you need to hide things from your patients. She's like, but you're just good at hiding. Like, she's like, you're hiding something from me, and I don't know what it is yet, but we're going to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And
with you being the patient.
I'm like, I'm literally poured out my entire life to you.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know what I'm hiding. I said, now I'm like regressing right now.
Like, what am I doing?
Because I'm like, what am I hiding? Like, what the hell is wrong with me? Like, what am I doing wrong?
Right.
And so I ended up dropping my therapist because the way she just approached it made
the connection
me feel
was
worse.
just not
because
there.
One thing you're not supposed to ever do as a therapist, like, you're supposed to push and challenge your patient, but you're never supposed to say anything that would put them in a place where they would
discomfort,
harm themselves even, or cause like any kind of like emotions like that. And that's exactly what she did. She like had me reeling.
I mean, it gave you discomfort to drop her. I mean,
and so she said, you know, well, she's like, I don't know. She's like, just something's off with your whole situation because she's like, you
pushy.
Yeah. She's like, you're healing like faster than you should be healing. Like, you should not be this good for how short of a time you've been broken up. I was like, so wait, you're telling me I'm too good?
I'm too good.
And so I'm like, and that was another thing that just triggered me. I'm like, okay. I'm like, and I had to set her straight. I'm like, listen. I was like, you don't see the nights that I'm crying.
Right.
Because I miss my wife. I miss my kids. You don't see the breakdowns. You don't see... I'm like, do you want me to hold all that to release for you? Like, to release in front of me? I'm like, no. I'm like, I've told you that I have really close friends that when I'm going through things, I talk to them. I sit with them. And it's not just a phone call. Like, I call them on the phone sometimes, but there's sometimes I'm sitting across the table from them, broken, crying, telling them what's going on. I said, and the reason I'm different when I have my sessions with you is because I dealt with this shit before I get to you. I'm like, so I'm at the point where I've dealt with my problems.
And also, at the end of the day, it's not like your most comfortable. That's not your most comfortable atmosphere. Yeah. And I've went through counseling as well. That's not your most comfortable atmosphere where you're... And I feel like I'm with you. I'm not about to break down and, like, give you my most explanation of, like, everything. I don't feel comfortable yet.
Which I did. I did with my therapist because I'm very much like... Because I'm studying to be a therapist, I know the more open and honest you are... the therapist is correct. The more they can help. And so, like, I was very, like, open and honest. And she goes, you can't tell me you share everything with your friends. I'm like, yeah, I share too much with my friends.
I share too much with my friends,
Like, my best friend, I share way too much with him. Like, we have a really odd relationship, and it's fantastic. But, like, it's just things like that. It's like, but again, the power of friends. The power of friends that will grab you and shake you and be like, okay, you need to snap out of this.
Snap out of it.
Like... Cool, I understand you're hurting, but at this point, like, okay, you're dwelling on it too much.
Literally, the friendship is the friends usually are the realistic part of the relationship and what you need to hear and the slap in the face that you need.
And because, again, if it's a true friend, they're not in it for any personal gain. Like, they've got nothing to
lose or win from
other than you being a better person.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you know your real friends.
Yeah.
The friends that are there.
Agree.
That don't have a goal for themselves.
And just to tell you that, I truly believe in that, and only because out of probably, back to the relationship time, 10 of us that were, a clique or whatever, I'm only talking to one of those, and she doesn't talk to and that's Jennifer. We both kind of, made it out. I don't know what to say, but I mean, it's just... Everybody, time changes, people mature, everybody goes down their own path, and that's totally okay. It's totally okay. I hate that people that, go out and, even if someone did do wrong, such as the situation, I'm not trying to bash anybody. Yeah. I'm just explaining my story the way you feel. These are the facts. This is what I've lived. This is what happened.
Yeah, you're not saying, like, there's not saying, this piece of trash
did this and that.
This is what... happened in my situation.
This was my situation.
And, and like you're even saying, like, you don't think they're a bad person.
I don't.
They
I
obviously
very much
have
don't.
things that they need to work on.
Correct. And so do I.
Yeah we all do.
We all do. We all do.
We've all got our flaws. And
we sure much do. And some have bigger flaws than others and whatever.
Yeah. And there you go. So let's kind of land this plane.
Correct.
You said something which sparked... the cause for recording tonight. I heard you saying something about loneliness.
Okay, yeah, loneliness.
And I kind of want to talk about that a little bit because this has been the theme of my life this week.
Okay.
You were talking about how, I think 4 months, November, December, roughly 4 months.
4 months.
What were you saying, like loneliness? Because you're experiencing...
Yeah, exactly. I think even kind of going back to when I was 18, even after we had broken up during that time, I had, when she had moved out of the place we were living together, I knew then when she moved out that I didn't like being alone. That was just something I didn't like. Anyways, long story short, I kind of fell down this depression, healed very sharp, and went through, a few mental health things. But I learned on the other hand of it is that it was a mental challenge that I had to fight. I had to learn how to be comfortable with myself and me and being alone and, facing these things. I mean, that was young stuff, not being able to be mature enough to accept these things. But at the end of the day, where I am today, I feel like my mental health is very good. I feel very strong, but still, at the end of the day, I don't like being alone, and that means as simple as when I get off of work, I don't want to go home because I'm alone. Yeah. I want to be with people. I want to be around people. I am a huge talkative, bubbly people person, and I want to be around everybody. I love to brighten people's day, but I really genuinely don't like being alone. It's even hard for me to go to sleep at night because I'm alone. I genuinely just don't like being alone. Yeah.
I think, that the podcast that I released earlier this week, I talked about that loneliness because I had it was really rough for me at the beginning of this week.
Right.
Because I'm starting to finally settle into the reality of my situation that, it's over.
It's over.
Like, you know, and I even had a conversation with my ex around that. Because I was honest with you the other day, and I told him, like, I miss you.
Yeah, really of course.
I said, but I know that that's not the path we're on. Like, it's
not doable.
And so I'm really, for the first time since my separation, since she left, facing that aloneness.
Yeah, yeah.
And the fact that, oh shit,
it's real.
Yeah, it's real. Like,
it's real.
There is no spouse for me to come home to at night that's going to be there.
The genuine companionship is all I look forward to.
Yes, that's... And it's interesting because the thing is, like, a relationship is a different level than a friendship.
Oh, most definitely.
Like you said, there's this intimacy.
Yeah,
this depth that you just can't explain.
And still, even inside of a relationship, I call it still a different type of friendship.
It is.
It very much is.
Like you said, it's a bond. It's a melding of the souls, which I think is why it's so hard, especially when you care so deeply about someone, to separate, to move on. And so, you face this loneliness and this aloneness, and it's kind of like, what do you do? Like, what's next? What do you do?
Where do you turn? Like, when is that time of change coming to something new? Like,
the first time for me too, I'm like, I don't know what my future looks like.
Same.
Like, I don't know.
Even me being so young, I'm like,
I want to find another relationship. And I said this to my ex not that long ago, and I told her, because she's like she tries to encourage me. She's like, well, you'll heal and you'll find someone else like one day. Well, I'm like, what if I don't want to?
Yeah, you're right. What if you don't?
And I told her too. I said, thank you for showing me what unconditional love looks like.
Right.
Because she did. And I told her, I'm like, you loved me when I wasn't lovable. You loved me at my worst.
Same.
You loved me when I went through some of my darkest times.
Correct.
I was like, so thank you, because if I don't ever fall in love again, you've at least shown me
what it is,
what love looks like. And
I'm with you.
And it's a scary thing, because there's part of me is like, do I want to give another part
of you to someone else?
Yeah. And so it's a lot of uncertainty.
It's a lot of uncertainty. It's a lot to think about. And, time moves by so much slower when you're like this, because all you're doing is thinking about the days and what's next. And it's a lot different.
Yeah.
Every step you take is differently now.
I sent a message to one of my friends, actually. Let me pull it up, because you'll probably relate to this. But I said to her, I wish someone had told me that it wouldn't go like the normal grieving process.
Yeah.
That it would hurt and be all over the place. Hopefully, and that's my hope, hopefully people can learn from my experience, so it's not as shocking. Because there's no manual.
There isn't.
It's like when I had kids. There's no handbook that really says, this is what it's like to have a kid. There was nothing like, for me, like, so my ex was only the second person I'd ever dated. She was the first person I was in a real serious relationship with. And we got married a year after we started dating.
Okay.
And so there was no manual to really prepare me to be a husband
and a dad
and a father.
Yeah.
Because, she had a daughter already. And so I was like jumping in the deep end.
Right.
Like husband and father. And because, I was going through some stuff in my life, I wasn't the best version of myself.
Right.
And so I never dealt with it, and I never got on the upside of it.
Correct.
And so, like, with this situation, the separation, the divorce, the breaking up, I wish someone, because none of my friends had really gone through it. I mean, my one friend, Jen, who I'm going to get on the podcast, she went through a situation similar to mine. So she was able to, like, she wasn't able to tell me how, like, what to expect, because obviously there's differences.
Yeah.
But she was still able to understand. Like, hey, I know what you're feeling.
Be there with you,
and
rather.
It's going to get better. Like, I remember her telling me things like that.
That's crazy. And there isn't going to be a manual, because it's a feeling at the end of the day, and everyone feels differently.
Yeah. But I want to be able to at least tell people, hey, expect this.
Expect one thing at least.
It's going to hurt. It's not going to make sense. And I think for our situations, like you and I, we were talking beforehand, is like I've said before, it's a surgical cut, you know?
Yeah.
A separation is a surgical cut, and you know when you cut with a surgical knife, it's clean. And it's going to heal back up. There's going to be scar tissue.
Of course. But you agreed on that separation.
Exactly. It's going to heal, and you'll get better in time. But then when there's any kind of like betrayal or hurt or distrust, it's a tear, and it doesn't heal the same way. Right. And it hurts a lot more. Worse. And you've got, I think, just like with a really bad, like if your arm gets ripped off or something, you have to do a lot more care.
Correct.
To make sure that it heals.
Right.
I think that's the thing.
And you're right. You're just like that with a relationship. It all depends.
Yeah. It
all really depends.
I think every relationship, every separation is messy.
Yeah. Very much. Everyone has their own situation, their own issues, their own flaws, and everyone's situation is
everybody's
different.
so different that people handle it differently. My way of trying to handle it was talking through stuff.
Yeah.
I need closure. I need resolution. I need to talk through it. My ex, that's not the way she handles it.
Yeah.
She's just quiet, deals with it, and eventually gets over it.
And one thing that goes into all of this is, I think, is understanding of one another. Take a step back and, don't react so quickly. And that's for any situation. Yeah. But I think one thing the world needs is understanding of each other.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks and feels and hopes and does things so differently. And if we could all just maybe relate to one another and take a step or a walk in everyone else's shoes and see what it's like. It's crazy.
I think that's what's so important and so valuable about being in relationships and friendships with people is that you see all the different characteristics of people. And then I think the more we're in friendship and relationship, when we encounter those different relationships in our like close relationships,
right,
intimate relationships, I think we'll have a better understanding of how to deal with those people. Because again, every relationship is different.
Yeah.
And there's no magic formula.
Yeah.
And there's always compromise in a relationship.
It's hard to be open with one another, and it really is for anybody to put their feelings and what they're thinking out on the line. But I think that's really the first step, which is the hardest, because if you don't put out there what you feel and what you're thinking, and how is someone gonna compromise with the way you feel or understand the way you feel, and it's all about being open with one another, which is so hard, so hard.
So I like to issue a challenge in podcasts. Will actually started this just randomly one podcast, and I like to kind of come up with a challenge.
Of course,
because again, every podcast I like to end on a positive note.
Of course.
So give us a challenge. Like, what would you say? Like, based on your story, your situation, like, what would you say to the listeners out there? Like, what would be a challenge that you could issue to them? Like a positive challenge. I think
a positive challenge is, one, having a more stable and positive mindset for yourself. So if I think that's one huge thing, and I think Rachel has even complimented on for myself, is that recently, within the last 4 to 6 months, I have really revamped myself and rethought the way I act and react to different things. And I think about having literally start with yourself. Think about the process of the way you think of things. Just be more positive. Everything that comes out of your mouth, of the way you think. Rebrand your mind to think more positive.
Really good.
And that's the start of it.
Yeah. And that's not like some like mystical
No, that's positive. Very realistic.
Yeah, it is. And
I do it every day. I fight myself every day to be positive.
That's so great. I'm so glad you said that, because this has actually been part of my theme the past week for myself. Through conversations with one of my coworkers. Right. We've really started to bond. She's awesome. But I realized how negative I was on myself.
Correct.
And not intentionally necessarily. Sometimes intentionally.
Yeah.
But that I've had to start to think more positively, because if I'm not positive, I start to be negative. It's a conscious decision you have to make about yourself. And I found myself saying so many negative things about myself, whether it was about my career, whether it was about my creativity, whether it's just about my personality. I would just be so negative on myself, and it would cause me to never achieve anything.
And you're also affecting everyone that's around you.
Exactly.
And like you said, even correcting yourself, I think that was my biggest thing after this, is that I kept overthinking myself. Like, I don't like this about myself, and that, and this, and this, and that. It doesn't matter. Be you.
Nobody wants to be around someone that's negative
all the time. I tried to be the most uplifting, positive person, because you know what? You never know what that other person's going through. And if I can be that one positive comment you got for the day, it makes my day. I'm such a people pleaser, and not even about being a people pleaser. I actually I feel from that. Yeah. Like, I love to make people feel good. So if your mind is positive, so is everything else around you.
Yeah, so there's your challenge, man. Just I think you got a couple challenges in this one.
Yeah, literally.
Surround yourself with good people.
Correct.
And change your way of thinking.
Change your way of
it's
your thought processing.
It's a conscious decision. Mm-hmm. You have to make that choice.
You attract what you are and what you think and how you feel.
Absolutely.
So feel positive, think positive, be positive, and you'll attract all the great things around you.
I think that is the perfect way to end the episode.
I definitely think so.
I love it, dude. Thank you so much
for sharing
your story. I'm sure you'll be on more episodes. No, I love it. Like, I heard your story. I'm like, okay, we got to do this. Like, so we got the microphone out, we got everything out, and just
so spare the moment, but it definitely turned out.
Because I heard the story, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this is a story
that
people need to hear. Everybody's got a story, I think, that everybody needs to hear. But yours is like a lifetime movie.
Yeah, very much.
And hopefully, and I think it will, it's going to help someone. Someone's going to listen to this and be like, oh, man, I'm going through something similar.
That's exactly right.
And maybe this will be the positive change they needed.
Exactly right. And I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so
very much so.
So everyone, thanks for joining us
on this
episode of Insights into a Soul. Remember, you can find us on every major podcasting platform. We've got the new website, insightsintoasoul.com. We're going to start blogging on there more. Make sure you go check it out. And make sure you go and you leave a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting platform, because that helps us get the word out. Continue to share it. Love your feedback. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Josh, again for joining us and sharing your story. Like I said, I'm sure you'll be on more episodes.
For sure.
But until next time, see ya.
See you guys.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Insights into a Soul. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to like and subscribe and to share it with your friends. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Insights into a Soul, on Instagram, @TorinH, and if you have suggestions for future episodes or topics, or if you'd like to be on the podcast, contact us, insightsintoasoul@gmail.com.